Welcome to our second annual CIERA Northwestern REU Career Hangout. We have a great panel today. We have Melissa Nysewander from Fidelity Investments, Leslie Sage from Nature, the Nature magazine journal, Colette Salyk from Vassar College, Francesca Valsecchi from the Clarity Solutions Group in Chicago, and Eric Wilcots from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I just want to open up to our panelists first to just give us a little background where they came from in astronomy and where they are now. I don't know if you can all see kind of the ordering that I see, but I would recommend we go from right to left, and that would start with Melissa.
Okay, sure. I can go first. Everybody can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, all right, good deal. So I am, like you said, currently I'm a data scientist at Fidelity Investments. It's been a long journey. I'm going to give you the highlights. So I got my PhD at UNC Chapel Hill in 2006. The focus of my research was on gamma ray bursts. So I led and built a robotic telescope at CTIO called Prompt. It still is functioning, and I'm still mentioned on paper sometimes for it. So I did that. I also led observing campaigns to gather observations. I did a lot of observing work. I also did a lot of modeling as well. And so modeling of the what's going on in the gamma ray burst. So I did that. I did a postdoc at Space Telescope Institute, basically doing very similar things, getting more into the data mining aspect. From there, due to so many complicated reasons, I decided to leave astronomy, and I came back to the Chapel Hill region. I fell in love with it. So I moved back here. I was working at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency as a consultant, still doing modeling, learning a lot more statistics. Decided to move into data science because I realized that all along the way I had really been a data scientist. So that's how I got into data science. That's the short version of my story.
Thank you. So moving down the line, let's go to Leslie.
Okay. So I got my PhD in Stony Brook in 1987, working on interacting galaxies before they were cool. And I'll tell you a little story when I was defending my thesis proposal. So this is 85 as the IRAS results are just starting to come out. I got to the end of it, and almost Hill said, oh, well, you know, this is all well and good, but everybody knows galaxies don't interact. All you have to do is take the number of galaxies and divide by the volume of the universe, and it's obvious they don't interact. So anyway, and then I did a postdoc in Socorro for 2 years. I was a postdoc at Max Planck Institute for Radio Astronomy in Bonn for 3 years, and then visiting assistant professor at UNLV for a year. And then in 1993, I joined Nature, and as the astronomy editor, and I've been there for 23 years. And I'm also the press officer for the Canadian Astronomical Society. I've been doing that for about 6 years now. And a columnist.
That's great. Thank you. And Francesca, you're next. You're on mute.
Yes, now I'm unmuted. Hi everybody, my name is Francesca. I got my PhD in 2012, I think, from Northwestern. And I got my PhD with Vicky, working on X-ray binaries and first half X-ray binaries, meaning binaries with a black hole or a neutron star and a star. And then I moved to gravitational wave sources. Modeling work, always theoretical work. I was doing a ton of coding and a ton of numerical integration and numerical modeling. And the idea was to basically use the data and our physical knowledge of the evolution of these systems to try to model the observation we used to see, and we're still seeing. Then I graduated, then I moved on to working with Fred on planets. I was a postdoc for a couple of years, and eventually I decided that I really like Chicago, and I wanted to stay in Chicago. So I started talking to other postdocs that were in my same situation, that were thinking about leaving academia, and I started hearing this buzzword, data science. I thought, I'm a scientist, I work with data, I might as well become a data scientist. So I joined a Clarity Solution Group, which is a big data consulting company, which is based in Chicago, but all my clients are not in Chicago. So I'm currently in Peoria, Illinois, working at the client, and I've been here for the past 12 weeks. But it's okay.
Well, we miss you here at Northwestern, but I guess on to bigger and better.
Yeah, I miss you too, guys, but eventually I come back and visit.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Eric, you're next.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Got it. Hi, I'm Eric Wilcots. I'm currently a professor at the University of Wisconsin here in Madison. My other full-time jobs, my wife likes to say I have 2 full-time jobs. My other full-time job is I'm the Associate Dean for Natural and Mathematical Sciences in the College of Letters and Science. So how did I get here? Like you guys, I did a couple of REUs as an undergraduate at various places at Kitt Peak, the VLA, spent a summer out at Berkeley doing astronomy, then went to the University of Washington for graduate school, working on star formation in the Magellanic Clouds. And the reason I got that thesis was that I really liked my advisor, and he gave me choice of 2 projects. One was looking at the Magellanic Clouds, and the other one was looking at dwarf galaxies. The Magellanic Cloud project meant that I got to go do my observing in Chile and Australia, and so I said, yeah, I can do that. So from Washington, I became a postdoc at the Very Large Array in Socorro. Leslie and I did not overlap, but I spent 3 years in Socorro, New Mexico, and then moved to Wisconsin in 1995, and I have been here ever since. And so currently most of my work is on the evolution of galaxies, the evolution of galaxy groups, although I'm getting a nascent interest in understanding exoplanets. And so I'm actually working with an undergraduate student on a little project trying to understand what we can learn about the interiors of exoplanets from very little data, but it's kind of a fun thing to play around with. And then in other time I'm being an administrator, being an associate dean. So life is busy.
Yeah, thanks. Sounds busy. And you're being attracted like everyone else to exoplanets. Okay.
Yeah. This came from a question that I asked, actually, because I team teach this Life in the Universe class that we have a team teaching with a couple of geologists, and we were talking about the early Earth and how cool the early Earth may or may not have been, and so I asked him what I thought was a pretty simple physics question about how do terrestrial planets cool down, and he couldn't give me a good answer, and so that got me interested in this question.
Yeah, I too have been lured over to the exoplanet side once in a while.
Yeah, not completely though. I still like my galaxies.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, thanks. And Colette, you're next.
Hi, so I'm Colette Salyk. I am a professor at Vassar College, which is a small liberal arts college. I actually had a pretty traditional, I guess, academic career. So I was an MIT undergrad and a Caltech grad student, and then I did a postdoc at University of Texas at Austin and a second postdoc at NOAO. The only thing that maybe was a little bit different from the typical person is that I did a lot of teaching. So when I was a grad student, I taught at Pasadena City College, and when I was at NOAO, I taught at Tohono O'odham Community College. So I actually did 3 semesters of teaching, which I think helped me get my current position. And then the research that I do is I study planet formation. In particular, I'm an observer, and I do spectroscopy to understand the physics and chemistry of planet formation.
Great, thank you. As you can see, we have a wide range of professions now, but everyone started out in astronomy. I'll introduce myself too. I'm Erin Geller. I'm the director of the REU site here at Northwestern, and I'm a postdoc now, and I know some of you from previous institutions, so that's some reason how you got onto this panel. But I want to just spend just a little bit going through some of the statistics because I think it might be interesting, especially for our students, just to know, to get some background. This is from a longitudinal survey by the American Institute of Physics of people who were in astronomy graduate school in 2006 and 2007, and they followed them, you know, till this was in 2014, I think, that these statistics are from. So, and I'm just pulling out kind of the stuff that I found most interesting. 83% of those students finished with their PhDs. Of these, 77% went on to at least one postdoc. So that, you know, that's fairly standard actually to go into doing a postdoc, but not everybody does. Overall, in 2014, about half of everybody who was surveyed were still in academia, and then below that there was a combination of people working in federal agencies, observatories, national labs, different for-profit and non-profit institutions, some people working in the government, some people at two-year colleges. The things that were a little different between those that had a postdoc and those without was mainly those in the academic institution at university level. So people who had a postdoc were more likely to be at the academic institution at this stage of their career. And the people who worked at for-profit institutions, those were more likely people who went straight there after grad school, didn't go to a postdoc. Okay, and then also in the employment areas there are a few differences. So about 70% of the people who were surveyed who had postdocs were still in astronomy, and that's it, to be compared to about 40% of those still in astronomy who did not do a postdoc. For those who did not do a postdoc, more of them went into business or finance or software development. Okay, and of those students who went on to postdocs, so as you know, there are a variety of postdocs that you can go to. Some of them are funded by yourself. You might write a grant and get funded to do a postdoc project. For instance, do a Hubble Fellowship or a National Science Foundation Fellowship. Then there are also types that you would go to a university to work with a faculty member on their own project. And then there's some labs that have postdocs. So of the students who went on to postdocs, 66% were funded through someone else's grant. About 40% were funded on their own proposal. And about 25% were working at a research center, a lab, or observatory. But regardless of having had a postdoc, more than half of the people surveyed say that they do research in their primary position, in their job. So this is good, especially if you want research. Even if you don't necessarily want to go on to do a postdoc, you know, it's high likelihood that you can do research at whatever job you find. The trend was that for those who didn't go into a postdoc, they had a little less direct control over what they researched. So, for instance, those who had a postdoc might be leading their own projects in their current position. Those who didn't might be doing a project that someone else gives them. But nonetheless, they're still doing research. And this one I think is the best. Regardless of having a postdoc, greater than 85% of those people surveyed say that astronomy graduate school and having a PhD in astronomy is the appropriate background for their position. And these were people in a very wide range of positions. And so it's meant to say that astronomy, you can go in to get an astronomy PhD and you have a lot of doors open for you. Okay, those are the statistics I just want to share briefly. And now I'd like to open it up for questions. Let me see just first if any of our students have any questions that they want to start out with. If anyone wants to jump in. Okay, I'll go first. I'll go first.
Hey, Erin, can I jump in real quick? Can we just have the students quickly just say who they are?
Great idea. Why don't we just go around really quickly and just tell us your name, and since you're not all from Northwestern, tell us where your home institution is. Yes, sir?
So my name is Karen.
Oh, you're outside of you.
My name is Karen. I'm a high school student and I go to boarding school in Connecticut, but I live in Chicago.
I'm David. I just graduated from Northwestern.
Hi, I'm Ichi. I'm a REU student and I'm from Duke University in North Carolina.
I'm Lupe. I'm an REU student. I go to Harvard College in California.
I'm Valerie. I'm an REU student and I go to Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville.
Hi, I'm Abraham. I'm in the CIERA REU and I go to Oregon State University.
Hi, I'm Josh. I'm also in the REU and I go to Carnegie Mellon University.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm also at the REU and I go to Illinois Tech, also known as IIT.
Hi, I'm Noah. I'm also an REU student and I go to California State University, San Bernardino.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm a rising junior at Haverford College.
Hi, I'm Laura. I go to Adley Stevenson High School in Lincolnshire, Illinois.
Hi, I'm Beverly and I go to Illinois Tech.
Great. Thank you. You know, this is actually a good test also. Were you able to hear everybody? Yeah. Some yes and no.
Yeah, Karen was a little distant, but I think the rest were okay.
Great. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Eric. That was a great idea. Let me start with the question that I emailed all of you, because I like this one. And feel free to just jump in. I don't need to, call on you. You can just kind of jump in when you want to answer. So the question is, what advice do you think advisors should be giving students regarding their career path?
Oh, I've thought about this one a little bit, so I'll step in. I'm also, I think, the first person on the right, so it makes sense. I have given panels like this to folks both at the beginning of their graduate career, and kind of at the end of their graduate career. And at the beginning of the career, like, first year PhD students at UNC, nobody cared, nobody engaged, nobody asked questions. It's because they weren't expecting it, because they're just starting their academic journey, and they don't expect to be caring about like what a data scientist does. So they're so focused on their academic research, which makes sense. But when I've done a panel for people, about to get out, they care a lot because they understand the reality. They know that, maybe their life circumstances changed between when they started grad school versus when they left. And maybe they're thinking about different options now. So I think what all that is to say is that expect the unexpected. Be open to different things. Your life experiences may change. Right now, you know for certain you're going to be a college professor. That might be different later on. So just as you go through your studies, and advisors, as advisors advise their students going through their studies, just be open to understanding the full experiences versus just narrowly focusing in on one small bit of research that only has a very tiny impact in reality. So, yeah.
One of the things that I push is that too many faculty members, even today, still regard people who do not become professors as in some way a failure. And that's not true at all. It's simply an alternative path. And a very close friend of mine who used to be at Wisconsin, but I don't think overlapped with you, Eric, Andrea Schweitzer.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And she chose to live in Fort Collins, and that precluded an academic life for her, but that outweighed an academic path. And so, as your life changes, as you get older, you develop different priorities. And a couple of the panelists have said, they wanted to stay in the Chicago area.
Yeah, so I'll jump in, and I think one of the things that I try to tell my certainly I'll talk about two different sets of students, right? Certainly, undergraduates, you're getting a nice base education in science. And if you're an astronomy major, I think you're doing it in a really fun way because I think astronomy is fun. But that's not, as an undergraduate, I don't want any of my students to feel that they are getting themselves onto a path that they cannot get off of, and they could be an astronomy major and they have to go and do astronomy. I think, again, it's a fun way to learn how to be a scientist, to learn how to be a data scientist, to involve data and analyzing data, and they should get that out of it in what I think is a really neat way. And I think it's not all that different for graduate students. I think certainly one of the things I do want graduate students to do is to enjoy their time in graduate school as much as you can enjoy being a graduate student. There are fun moments, but to get something out of it and to make your contribution as a graduate student to the discipline. You're getting a PhD in astronomy. Make your thesis as good as it can be. Learn things that you need to learn in order to be able to do that thesis, but also in order to be able to make you a better overall quantitative thinker and somebody who can use data, and then use that as a platform for going off and doing something else that you might want to do, or by staying in astronomy. From my naive point of view, and you should always keep this in mind, that professors know really well how to advise students to become professors because that's the path that we have traveled. It's easy for me to advise a student how to get my job down the road. It's harder for me to advise a student on how to get a different job because I don't have that experience. But naively, I think if you are successful as a graduate student in your work as a graduate student, that becomes a strong platform for going off and doing any number of things. And so focus on that while keeping a little bit of an eye on the future. But again, I'd be curious to hear from the other panelists on that.
Sorry, I cannot. I'd like to. I wanted to talk before, but they started vacuum cleaning the carpet next to me, so I had to keep muted. But following to what Leslie was saying, it is true that there is still the idea in some places that if you don't end up being a professor after you went to grad school, you're a failure. And I think it's true for at least astronomy in some places because when I was there, I didn't get exposed that much to anything else but my research. And then now I can tell that there is more this data science buzzword going on and spreading. There is a data science program at Northwestern, for example. But I've heard of this word the first time, I think, 2 years ago. And I started looking into it. But if you keep the beauty of graduate school is you learn so many things. Or the beauty of research, really. Like, you learn so many things that even if you don't know exactly a specific thing you need in order to do the job you're going to be doing, you can figure it out. That's the thing you need to, the thing you're going to be learning is how to figure things out. But also, for my experience, for example, my fear when I decided I want to stay in Chicago and academia doesn't allow me to do that because I got fellowships outside was, what if I get bored? What if I cannot find anything else that I like as much as this one? But then I realized that what I really liked, well, the data were fascinating, of course. And now I still read the BBC and all the nature part and all the science news. But the thing that I really liked and I really enjoyed was all the data processing around it, like the question you want to answer. How do you get there? Talking to people to figure out if there is a way to do that. Getting stuck, getting unstuck, finding a bug, coding the part, and getting the answer. All that is independent on the data you're going to be using. So, and that's the part that I still do now that I really, really enjoy. So as long as you keep an open mind and keep an eye out for what's out there beyond your research, you're going to be just fine.
I'll add one thing. So I basically agree with what everyone is saying, but I just wanted to add that I think even if you do want an academic career, you don't always have all the choice that you wish you had. So you may not, in fact, find an academic job. And if you do find one, you may not have as much choice in where you get to live or exactly the type of job you get. So not to make it negative, but instead positive, I think for me it's always been important to maintain the rest of my life. So make sure that I'm healthy and make sure that I'm doing things that are enriching outside of my work, because I think it can be really devastating for people if they're 10 years into a career and then they find that they can't pursue some narrow idea that they had for their career. So I always try to encourage students to make sure that they have some balance in their lives.
I think that's a great segue also to talking a little bit about work-life balance. Maybe can we take just a little bit, and then, since you brought that up, and then we'll let the students ask some questions too. Can you just say a little bit about how this could also be like what your normal day is like, or what you do outside of work? But how do you feel like your work-life balance has been over the course of your career, and how, is that something that you are happy with? And this is open to everybody.
So I guess I can start. So when we moved to Wisconsin, I said in '95, and I've got two daughters who are now both in college. But I spent a good chunk of my years being a professor coaching two girls soccer teams, and so that was a whole lot of fun, because it meant I had a bunch of 8-year-old or 9-year-old or 10-year-old soccer players waiting for me at the soccer field at 6 o'clock, which means I had to leave work in time to be able to get there, and it was a whole lot of fun. And you get to interact with lots of people outside of academia. It is always, I think, eye-opening, and it is good for those of us in academia to remember there is another world out there, and not everybody understands what we do. And so that was just a lot of fun hanging out, coaching soccer. Now that my kids are older and I can't coach them anymore, I like to bicycle, right? So I get on my bike. Southern Wisconsin's a great place to ride a bike, and so that's the fun I have. But I think it is really important to have that balance, and to be able to get away from work, to clear your mind, to have something else in life other than what happens to be in the office or what you're thinking about. It's great to be passionate about your work. I don't want to put that down at all, but it's also good to be able to have something else. And of course, human relationships are really important, and so maintain those.
Well, I could be a bad example, I guess. I normally start reading emails about 5:30 in the morning and stop about 9:30 at night, because I have them coming in from all around the globe all the time. But while my son was going through school, indeed, there were he played soccer, and I coached an indoor soccer team one year, and in the place where we live in Potomac, Maryland, there are actually a lot of academics, and so you didn't get so much exposure outside of that life.
I can speak a little too. So work-life balance was one of the reasons why I left, among many reasons. But there was work-life balance when I was at Space Telescope. That's how people were. They got up at 5:30 and started checking emails and started doing work and did that till 9:30. And I realized that wasn't for me, and I realized that I kind of lost that passion. And so part of me leaving was I wanted to work 9 to 5, and if I wanted to log on later, I could or not. And that's the logging on later has crept in a little bit more, but I enjoy it. I have a very good work-life balance now. I have 2 very young kids, and so I'm able to say, like, after I get off work, I focus on my kids. I have a good social life. I do martial arts. I do a lot of different things. And you can definitely do that, you know, in astronomy or out of astronomy. I think it depends more on the environment, because there are certainly, I know, especially consultant data scientists, they are sometimes traveling so much that, you know, it is harder to have a work-life balance there too. And yes, I see you, Francesca, smiling, because I know people like that. In my line of work, I work from like 8:30 to 5:30, and then sometimes log on at night, and it's good. I'm very happy. I'm very pleased with it.
Let me complain a little bit about that. No, so no, work-life balance is actually okay. So as a consultant, traveling consultant, I work on projects that are few weeks long. So this my first project was actually 3 weeks long, and this second project is 12 weeks long. And we are kind of, it depends, but sometimes we need to be on site for multiple consecutive weeks. So I travel Monday to Thursday, pretty much almost every week, which can be tiring. The job itself boils down to being 9 to 5 really, but I cannot be home, which is kind of annoying. Now, the good side of that is that, at least in my, at Clarity, the team is great. We have a lot of people working here at the same client. And so at least like we arrange like group activities. Tonight we're gonna go eat all-you-can-eat crab all together. Just to do something, because we are in Peoria, Illinois, and there is absolutely nothing to do. So that, I mean, the team is fun, so it's we can spend at least time together. Now the good side instead, when I'm off project, which is the bench, it's so-called bench time, then the work-life balance becomes pretty much great, because I can work from home. When I'm in Chicago, I can work from anywhere I want. At least Clarity solution gives us the freedom of doing pretty much whatever we want, as long as it's towards reaching the company. So, for example, the first month that I was on bench, I was just studying new things. I wanted to learn parallel computing, so I got certified for that. Then I started teaching Python to the new employees, so I started preparing the lecture for that. Then I started on Friday, I'm teaching machine learning to the employee. So once I'm on bench, then, which can last for like up to a month, then it's your personal interest and what you would like to learn next that might be useful for the next project. And at that point, it's like truly 9 to 5, and that's it. Weekends are off. Nobody sends email. No, I don't receive an email over there. The only emails I receive are still the ones from Became Fred every once in a while. But that's it. So it's actually much better than when I was in Chicago overall, as a postdoc or in grad school.
So I find work-life balance to be a real challenge. My work can be, during the semester, can be really overwhelming. On the other hand, I have a lot of flexibility, so if I need to leave at 3 p.m. to do something, I can do that, but then I still have to show up to class the next day with 2 hours of lecture, so I might be working till 2. So I don't know, it's kind of a work in progress for me. So for example, I'm part of a Facebook group with a bunch of other young faculty, and we kind of talk about time management and work-life balance. So it's always a challenge.
Thank you. That's all great information and very interesting. Let's see if any of our students have questions. Yeah. Hey.
For Francesca, I had a quick question. Have you ever flown somewhere that you really liked, and just after the project was over, you just stayed there for like the weekend because you enjoyed the year or wherever you were?
Okay, Aaron, can you repeat the question? I didn't hear it too much.
Yeah, in general, let's speak up when we're asking questions. So the question was, have you ever flown to some place that you really liked for work, and been able to stay the weekend and just kind of hang out?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can pretty much do, but the weekend is up to you. Um, but yeah, I've never done it because, I mean, the most exotic place where I've been to was Kansas City. Amazing barbecue. Like, I was so happy with the food, you have no idea. But beyond that, there was not too much to do, and I really like Chicago, like museums and stuff. But sure, I mean, you can spend the weekends wherever you want, and often, I mean, as long as you travel for you start and end at the working place, you can actually also expenses all the traveling that comes with it. So, yeah, I have, like, the company has projects all over the place. I have people working at Facebook, and then not to fly back on Thursday and come back to Chicago, they just travel California over the weekend.
Because I imagine people who like to travel a lot, a job like yours could be very interesting.
Yeah, no, there are some, especially the younger one, the youngest one, the associate consultants are like just graduated from college, and they love the traveling part. I mean, if you think about it, you just throw basically like 10 people in a city working all together. It's it can be very fun when the team is a lively bunch of people. It's actually really fun. You basically hang out in the evening, chit chat.
Thank you. Other questions?
I guess this is more directed for the people who left academia. So this question is more directed at people who left academia, but I guess anyone can answer. What are some things you wish you knew or wish you had been like discussed with your mentor or whoever?
I can go. So the thing I wished I had discussed when I was in grad school was more that if you leave, it's okay. So being more exposed, like you get to the point of you do your research, you get a thesis, you get paper out, and then you don't get a postdoc because your research topic is not hot enough. And in my experience, I was on the job market with a gravitational wave project when they did not discover gravitational waves yet. Maybe by now I will be professor. And and I was working on an experiment that Lisa and NASA stepped out by the time I graduated, so who cared? I got an offer from Europe, but I wanted to stay in the US. And then I switched to planets, and I got all postdoc offers I wanted. But when you get to the job market and you get an offer, you think, oh, what am I going to do? Oh my God. Like, you think graduate school is the only thing you are able to do, and that's not true. So I wish I had more exposure to, okay, it's okay, if you don't get this, you can apply for postdocs, but you can also apply for a million other positions because you have the skills to do a lot of things. That's the message that we didn't have when I graduated. So it was like either those 35 fellowships, and there are, by the way, like 500 people that apply. So if you don't get one, it's okay. It's either those 35 or nothing else. So that's the mood that I got to the job market with, and of course you freak out. So for that I said, keep your mind open. There are so many things that you can do with like a research education that is insane.
I have to agree. I hire a lot of data scientists now, and people with PhDs in quantitative sciences that work with data, that understand how to ask questions and how to answer questions with statistics and make hypotheses and stuff, that's a huge skill that is needed across the spectrum. But the people coming out of school with those skills, they don't know how to talk, and they don't know how to translate what they've done into something that a business cares about. And if you're able to, like, you know, during your career as a scientist, you know, force yourself to do those journal club presentations, force yourself to do those talks, because preparing yourself and learning how to communicate is one of the biggest skills you can have. Yep.
One of the things that I wish I'd known is that I had to rush my my PhD because of the timeliness of the topic, and there was a lot of competition. But I really wish it had taken another year, year and a half. So I finished in 4.25 years, which is very fast. And but I had Dave Sanders breathing down my neck, so I just felt that pressure to get the thesis done. But I wish I'd taken another year. And I will speak to the travel, because I travel globally a lot, and I've been to some fascinating places. I spent a couple of weeks in South Africa. I went on a walkabout in Australia. I've been to Armenia. Not many people have been there, and in addition to the usual suspects, but I love to travel, and normally I can swing a couple of days of personal sightseeing with a trip. Sometimes I can't, but I've flown to Asia 3 times for 3 days, and every time I've done it, I'll say I'll never do that again. But you know, there are times when my schedule is just so tight that I have to do it.
You know, Leslie, I'm glad you mentioned the travel thing. Also, I wanted to just so everyone knows, I mean, also in astronomy, we do travel a lot for conferences, for observing. I've often added on a few days of vacation too. So there's actually a lot of, you can do this in astronomy as well. Other questions from the students?
Okay, I have one for the people in the private sector. What do you like most about your company?
Did you all hear that? For those in the private sector, what do you like most about your company?
For me, it's my immediate colleagues on the physics team at Nature, and we're launching Nature Astronomy now, and so I'm working together with them, and it's just, they're a wonderful, smart bunch of dedicated people, and really good team spirit.
Yeah, I work at Fidelity, and I mean, I am pretty proud of our company in a lot of ways. We're a huge financial giant. We have a lot of good programs. I do feel like we genuinely, maybe I've drank the Fidelity Kool-Aid, we genuinely care about our customers and our participants in our plans. I feel like I'm pretty proud of the services that we provide, and I also think that it's cool. So being on the data scientist side, we're the ones that we're kind of like the brains of the company. We help make decisions. We link data to actually making decisions and enacting change in the company, and I think that that's a pretty cool, fun place to be. Yeah. Did you also ask what we like least about it? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Yes, please do also say what you like least.
Giant politics. I've heard that, you know, professors have to deal with politics. I don't know if they have anything on politics at a giant company like this, but there's stuff like that is everywhere. But yeah, Fidelity is definitely, like, by far my favorite position I've ever had in my whole career?
As for clarity, I think I like a lot the fact that the transition to private sector was very smooth, because, as I said, I started, I was not on project right away, so I started studying. I was studying at Northwestern, and I just started studying somewhere else for something that, though I needed, like I was more on a deadline. But I like the overall philosophy. The company is not that big, but it's growing a lot. Now I think we are 350 people, but with the idea of hiring like 1,000 more people within the next few years. And they really leave us the freedom to learn as much as we want and as much as we can when we're not working on something. The people that work with us are very smart, and beyond, the only downside I think is the traveling part, which can be tiring at times. But again, I mean, once you build the trust with the client, and once you don't have, sometimes you have to be on site and you are coding for like 6 hours a day in a cubicle. You can be coding from the CTA. It doesn't really matter as long as you have a Wi-Fi. So once you build like the trust with the client, you can also like try to talk your way out of the traveling and work remotely.
I'd like to also open this question up to Eric and Colette. What do you like most, and what do you like least about your positions?
What I like most, I think it's a combination of things. And so I will say, in my administrative job, it's the breadth of different disciplines that I get to interact with. So I get to interact with, as I said, the Associate Dean for Natural Mathematical Sciences, so math, computer science, statistics, chemistry, physics, biology, geoscience, atmospheric science, as well as astronomy. So there, I really, intellectually, I just love dealing with the breadth of those different departments and understanding those disciplines in a way. I also agree with what someone else said, is the team we have in the dean's office is fantastic, and so it's just a great group of people to interact with and to work with and to solve problems with. And so that makes it fun to actually do the job. A lot of my colleagues think I'm nuts for going into administration, but it's intellectually stimulating, and it's quite fun. On the sort of the astronomer side, so the professor side, I like interacting with students. So both I like teaching students and I like mentoring students. And that, I don't think I would be doing astronomy without having that ability to interact with students. And so I'm not the type of person that could just sit in my office, do my own research and be content with that. I have to be working with students. I have to be teaching students. That's just part of the job fulfillment. So those are the upsides of the job. I also like to travel. It's kind of fun. You get to see the world. I mean, the downside, probably like most places, there is politics. Again, being in the dean's office, you get to see all sides of the university, and some of them just aren't all that pleasant. But you got to deal with them, right? In that solving problem. So I do like to tell people that whenever I have a meeting with the university lawyers, it's because probably somebody on campus did something really stupid, and you wonder why. But our lawyers are just great people to hang out with, so it makes it kind of pleasant.
So I'll say that as a liberal arts professor, I just have this incredible diversity of things that I do with my year, and also a lot of flexibility with what I do. So yes, I do have to show up to class every day with stuff, but what that stuff is really open. So for example, I teach Astronomy 101, and what does that mean? Well, it means whatever I want it to mean. So what's neat about that is if I'm just interested in something, like I want to read about Juno, I open up the web and I spend an hour reading about Juno, and then I talk about it in class. So you kind of have this, opportunity to always be learning, as part of your job. So I really like that. What I don't like is I hate grades. Students hate grades, but professors hate them even more, I think. I hate grading, and I hate like just dealing with students that don't want to be in the class. You know, it's just not fun to kind of deal. You just want the students to be excited, and it makes it more fun for me too. So.
Thank you. What else? Any other questions?
I've got one.
Yeah.
How often does your work push the boundaries of your knowledge, and how much of it is just application of skills you already are good with?
Here, I'll repeat that just in case you didn't hear. The question was, how often does your work push the boundaries of your own knowledge, and how often is it more that you're saying?
Applying skills you're already good with.
Yeah, just applying skills that you already know.
For me, it's every day.
Which way? Learning new things every day?
Yes.
Okay.
For every project that I do, I always do it better. I'm always trying to figure out ways to improve upon myself. So while I'm not pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, like maybe some of the professors are, I am always challenging myself to do my craft a little bit better than I did before.
Yeah, and I'm also always pushing my knowledge. And I think one of the bit of the flexibility you get in academia is the ability to do work on different projects that go beyond what you normally do. And so 2 years ago, I know nothing about exoplanets. Now I'm trying to learn about exoplanets along with one of my students, right? So that makes it a sort of a double whammy. I'm trying to be a mentor and learn this stuff at the same time. But as you guys know, your ability to do different kinds of software, come up with different algorithms, you know, I still code in Fortran occasionally. And so to think, I know. So I'm always learning new things, and I think that's part of the fun. And again, that's not something just reserved for academics, but it's great to be able to have a job where you actually can learn new things all the time and get new experiences, and that's part of the enjoyment of it.
Me also in my case, like every project is something new that I have to learn. I had, when I was for my research, I did a ton of coding, but not really machine learning in the standard sense of the word. But all the projects I'm doing now, it's some sort of like machine learning technique applied to everyday data, and so it's really like, okay, go figure it out. But it's something that I used exactly the same approach in graduate school. So yeah.
Just see if Colette, do you want to jump in on this? You don't have to. I just want to see.
I guess the one thing that's slightly different for a professor is sometimes you're not doing something new, but you're trying to take something old and make it understandable to other people. So I think also, like, if I were doing something totally new every day, I think I'd be exhausted. So I think sometimes I do dial it in and do some things that I already know well and just like crank out a little bit of work. So I think it's a mix.
Yeah, good. More questions from back here.
Just any advice on just the logistics of getting out of academia? So I just like applied to a job, and like I don't even have a resume anymore. I only have a CV. So I like just did you find mentors? Did you kind of just figure it out on your own? Any advice to just the logistics of finding a job and that kind of things?
I went through a year-long process. I figured it out on my own. I have since reviewed a lot of resumes from a lot of folks like yourself who only have CVs and need to get it into resume form. A skills-based resume and taking the words in the job description and making sure that your resume talks about those words exactly. So like for, you know, maybe a company like Fidelity, you have to get through an HR process where nobody in HR knows anything about what you're talking about. So you need to explain yourself. So don't list all of the, I mean, if you want to include your publications, please do. But you need to write in understandable language, so that, you know, people understand your relevance, your relevant experiences, and how they translate into a business sense, and why anybody in this business cares about what you've done. So I think that translation and communication.
Anche, sorry, I was about to speak in Italian. Also for me was a pretty much a year-long project, because so when I decided I wanted to transition, I wanted to, I had nothing else on my resume apart for PhD and research. So I wanted to add a few more buzzwords. So I started taking online classes. And I actually wanted to understand what all this machine learning fuss was about. And I found this great online class offered on Coursera by Andrew Ng. It's a Stanford class. It's great. Math level, absolutely understandable. And it basically gave me a broad overview of some of the many things you can do with machine learning. And you understand that it's basically math. I mean, I knew coding, I knew math, so I was pretty much good to go. And from there, I took like few more classes that were more to really put bullets on my resume, rather than, I already knew all that, but it was more to say I took this class, because I also got the impression that when I went interviewing, and to build my resume, I used the Northwestern University Career Center, I think. I had a meeting and they basically gave me some templates and few suggestions on how to write things down to make it like catchy and useful. But I got the sense that when you get out of graduate school and you talk to, already you go to the Northwestern Career Fair, it's like you have superpowers, like you have like a physics PhD, like you already know everything. It's like, no, like I need to know what you do in your job that I can do too, because I had no idea of samples of projects and these kind of things. So having that kind of like bullets help people, and also helped actually as you go on a job interview, you have simple examples to present rather than going, yes, I work on this like dynamic tides and gravitational wave binary systems, and people were looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about? While these like online classes gave me simple examples to show where I applied some of the skills that were needed for the job. And it also showed commitment to the fact that you want to change. You don't wake up like a day saying, you know what, I'm going to leave and go corporate. So it was a long process. It was, I had to work on it a bit to transition smoothly.
Okay, I think we're actually getting close to our 1 hour time limit that I set, so I'd like to let all of our panelists go very soon. But before I do that, I just want to open it up to the panelists to see if you have any kind of closing thoughts that you want to give, maybe something we didn't cover, or any advice that you want to give to our students. If you like, we can go left to right this time. Colette, if you have something you want to say, you're welcome to start.
I don't know that I can think of anything in particular. Just to try to stay happy and healthy throughout your career. That would be my #1 piece of advice.
That's a very important piece of advice. Thank you. Eric, do you have anything you want to add?
Something really profound. I can't think of anything really profound, but I think it is. Go ahead and have fun, try different things. And enjoy enjoy what you're doing while you're doing it, but don't necessarily get trapped in it. But most of all, have fun.
Yeah, thank you. And Francesca, anything you wanted to add?
Let me mute myself. Yeah, have fun. And at the end, if you don't do research for an afternoon, the world is not gonna end. So you don't have to kill yourself all the time at any given time. Saturday, you can take the day off and everything will be just fine, unless you have a deadline proposals of some sort. But yeah, like try to absorb as much as you can and explore, learn as many things as you can, and at the end, everything will be extremely useful.
Thank you. Leslie, anything you want to add?
Just reiterate the have fun. I remember asking a friend of mine a few years ago. She was complaining about proposal writing and supervising people, and I said, "Are you having fun?" And she said, "No." I said, "Well, why are you still doing this?" So I have fun every day, and I thought I had a terrific time doing my PhD, and my postdocs were fun. Probably the hardest time was being an assistant professor, and I think I did not have all that much fun that year.
Thank you. And Melissa, you can close us out.
Okay, so going along with the fun theme. So, I mean, I'm not doing astronomy now, but I have a very successful career, and I'm very happy where I am now. So even if you go through and get the PhD, you can quit and do something different at any time. You don't fall for this fallacy that, you know, oh, you've wasted your life if you get a PhD and then do something else. I had so much fun getting a PhD. I observed on mountaintops in Chile. I learned so many awesome things and met so many awesome people. You can always switch gears and do anything that you want to do at any point in your life. And so just, you know, remember that and have, you know, maximize your fun along the way. Because spending your 20s getting paid to go to school and get a PhD is actually a pretty awesome thing, no matter your field.
Thank you. That was great to end on. I like the theme of having fun. I agree with it 100%. So let's thank our panelists. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.